Today I'm showing you how to build this spaceport breeding base in ARK Survival Ascended. I built this on Ragnarok using the Galaxy high-tech custom cosmetic skins. I definitely would recommend these skins if you want to build this base and get the exact same results, but of course you're free to play around with different cosmetics if you'd want to go for a different look or if you don't own these premium skins. It is of course a breeding spaceport base, which means that you've got a ton of space on the inside of the main breeding hall for all of your different breeding projects, and even your bigger creatures will be able to fit inside quite easily. An extra layer for your flyers so you can also park and breed those in the same place, and alternatively you can turn the top of this hall into a little greenhouse to either just grow some crops or maybe hatch some elder claws there as well. Then we have the tower to the side, which of course is basically your main base. If you want to have that in the same location, you have plenty of space here to fit in all of the bigger structures that you might need, a bunch of crafting and storage, and a cozy bedroom, so that you could use this breeding spaceport as your entire base if you want to do that. Hello there survivors, and welcome back to another video in ARK Survival Ascended. In this build guide I'm going to show you exactly how to build this, as well as how to apply all of the different skins. So if you're looking for a nice big breeding base, I think you'll find this one very useful. As always, if you enjoy seeing videos like this and you want to continue to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and of course, if you've got any suggestions for future builds you'd really like to see me do, leave them down in the comments below. And this is the entire foundation that we need. So it's a pretty big circle with a smaller circle to the side. And of course, what we want to do is start out with some foundations. Now we're going to make the first big circle, and we're going to have 6 normal foundations next to each other. Then we're going to have the triangles. Of course, there's always 2 sides to triangles. I will be counting the outside, so we want to have 7 facing the outside here, because that will get us a nice middle, which is what we need for these sides. And then basically we want to continue this shape all around, so 6 normal foundations every time, and then 7 triangles facing to the outside to get the right size circle, the right shape to get us started. And of course this means we have to do this quite a few times, but as long as we keep this same pattern going, we should meet up again where we started, which is the entire goal, of course. There we go. And then slowly but surely we'll be making our way all the way around the build and get back to the beginning. So again, 6 normal foundations and 7 triangles facing to the outside, and if we've done it correctly, we should meet perfectly back up with where we started. A pretty big circle. Of course, we're gonna fill that all in, and then off to one of the sides we want to find those 6 full foundations, and this is where we're going to start the side tower. So we're going to have 2 of these foundations right here in the middle facing the big circle. Then we'll have 3 triangles facing the outside again, and then we'll have 2 normal foundations, and basically we're going to make a smaller circle here. So again, 3 of these triangles on the outside and then 2 normal foundations, and that's how we'll make the second smaller circle, but following the same principle that if we keep going with this pattern, it should end up being a perfect circle and meeting up with where we started. So now the shape looks like this, which isn't entirely done with foundations just yet. Of course, we'll need to fill it all in, but we'll also have some additions to make on both of these circles. And we'll start here on the small circle. We want to add 2 extra foundations here next to the other full foundations. We want to do the same right there. Then this one, which is opposite the side where it connects to the main bit, we'll leave empty. We can extend this one and finally add some more here, just to kind of give a little bit of extra bulk to this space. Then for the main big circle, we actually want to make the 2 entrances. So right over here, so pretty close to where the tower is, we're going to extend this entrance by 2 foundations on each corner, just to form a little bit of an entrance shape. And we can do the same thing on the opposite side. So yeah, you want to have these 2 entrances right opposite of each other. Then we can actually take out a quarter foundations, add 2 over here, another 2 over there, and then we can have 3 going across just like this to kind of fill in that shape. And of course it means we can do the exact same thing over here on the opposite side, and again filling in the middle with those 3 foundations. That's the 2 of the entrances sorted. Then we still want to add some details for all of these other sides. So here in the middle of the triangles, we want to add 3 full foundations just like that. We can of course do the exact same thing over here on this side. Then here we want to have 1 right there and another 1 here, so with a gap of 2 in the middle. Then again 3 foundations there, then the same pattern there with the gap, then once more 3 in the middle. Then we have the other entrance, of course. We can again have 3 in the middle here, 1 over there, 1 over here, and then again 3 in the middle right there. And that will kind of add a few details to the shape we have made. And now the main thing that we still need to do is of course fill in the entirety of these foundations so that we have the full size and scale of our build complete. So we'll start here with the smaller circle. Of course, this is quite a simple process. It's basically just alternating the full foundations and the triangles until you meet in the middle, which is kind of the easiest way to build a circular building in ARK. So yeah, we're just gonna continue going around like this, adding in all of these foundations all around our build. There we go. And then once again, full foundations all the way around. And finally, more triangles in the center. And of course, for the biggest circle, it's the same principle with the alternating the triangles and the full foundations, except of course on a much bigger scale. So it's just gonna take you a lot more time, but by doing this at the start, of course, it just means we don't have to worry about like losing foundation support during our building and having to go back to building later. I always find it easier to work this way. So yeah, we're gonna just start filling in all of this entire big circle, which again is just alternating the triangle foundations with the full foundations until we will meet eventually at some point all the way in the middle of the build. But again, this is of course a much larger scale because, well, we need room for all of our breeding, right? That's at least what I designed this base to be for. And that's why we have a pretty big circular design here. There we go. So once we come around, of course, that means we can go back to our triangles and keep going round like so, getting our foundations in place. And you know, by every layer that we build, of course, we'll get closer and closer to the middle, eventually being able to meet it all up and almost completing the at least the foundation layout for this base, which always is a nice step, because then at least you're very sure that wherever you've chosen to build will actually fit the entire base. You need a decent amount of space for this one, but it shouldn't be too difficult to find a good spot for it, hopefully. There we go, all the way across. And then once we've done that, of course, back to the full foundations and going around once more to fill in this big circular breeding spaceport. There we go. All the way round we go until we're back where we began. And we can go back to the triangles once more. So yeah, quite a few triangles and foundations are needed, of course, to give this entire base the support that it will need, but it will be all worth it in the end. And there we go. Just keep going all the way along. But you can already start to feel that we're getting closer to the middle. It's taking less and less space to get around, which is a good sign, of course, because otherwise, well, we're going to get dizzy if it's continuing much longer building in circles like this. But hopefully we will not have to do this much longer. So there we go. Back to triangles. Yeah, you can start to tell it's going quicker and quicker now that we're getting closer to the center of our circle. There we go. Keep this going all the way round. And we should be meeting up back with where we started, and then back to the full foundations, which you can definitely start to tell now that we're nearing the center of our build, which is good news, because again, we don't want to get ourselves too dizzy by spinning around and filling in these foundations like this. But we are almost at the center. So again, we'll just keep alternating these foundations, and then before too much longer we will meet up and we'll have our foundations down to get started on the actual building. There we go. A few more triangles. And then the final full foundations all the way round. And then finally triangles to finish the entire circle. So yeah, if we get to this stage, it means that we've basically completed the foundations. We just want to make sure that we have our staircases into the build. So yeah, we can take out our stairs, and first of all, here opposite the big circle, we can add some stairs here to the sides. If it lets you, you could fill in the sides. Probably will depend on your landscaping, and you can add some railings to the side just to make them look nicer. And if you want to, you can of course change the looks of these with those nice textures just to get it ready. Technically, you can also skin the entirety of the foundations. I'm not going to do that for the tutorial, just to save some time. But yeah, we can also fill in the stairs over here. So we want to have 4 of them next to each other in this entrance, and then of course the same thing on the opposite side, 4 of them next to each other, so that we have an easy way in and out of our base. Then we'll actually start with this tower to the side, so that in case you're building this in survival, you could actually start using the base before you finish the rest. We want to have a gateway here, and of course we also want to have a gateway on the opposite side, so that we can close off this tower once we are done. And of course that means we'll want to have the actual gates in there. Then we're going to use this nice metal texture on the gate so that we get those ready, and it has these awesome glass doors so you can still kind of see in and out of the base, which is a nice addition. Then we'll actually start building up these side bits, and we can do that by raising up these walls to be too high on all sides, and in that way we can get a little bit of the structure for this tower in place. And these are kind of like, well, they look like supports from the outside, just to make the tower a little bit more interesting. And then we can also have our slope walls facing into the tower itself on top of these sides. So just like this, we can shape up the entirety, and then we can have our roofs here on the top to finish off these supports along the sides of our tower, just like so. And then we can actually bring out our skin, and we can change it all to these lovely metal textures, which look very nice in my opinion. And I'm going to try and skin as much of the base as possible during the tutorial to hopefully help you out if you're using these same cosmetics. If you're using different ones, of course, you can ignore these steps. But yeah, we just want to change them to this nice metal look, which are going to be the supports for our main tower shape. Then it's time to start shaping up the rest of the tower with our large walls. We can actually take out large walls and place them on the sides of these triangles all the way around the tower, just to get a little bit of a shape into the building. And then we actually want to raise up these large walls again. So basically we want to add another large wall on top of all of these different sides, and then we can actually add another large wall in the middle too, but just at the top, so the bottom one stays empty. And of course we want to do this for all different sides of our building, so we'll add in those large walls, which will really start to help shape up our tower to be a little bit higher right away without having to spend a ton of different structures on them, as you can see. Then we actually want to take out the other skin that we have. We want to change the skins, not of the middle one, but all of the other ones we want to skin to get a little bit of the clean white metal look in here. And you have to be rather close to actually apply the skin to these large walls most of the time. There we go. And that is gonna start to give our tower quite a nice look. We actually want to change the variants on these walls, because there is quite a few variants. We want to have this one with the stripe going up. You can of course interact to change the variant. I like to use the variant cycle tool, which just allows me to do it a little bit quicker, which especially if you're doing a lot of building like I do, or these tutorials, it just helps me be a little bit quicker with changing these variants. But if you're an official and you obviously won't have access to this mod, then you'll have to do it by hand. There we go. We can already see some nice lines coming together now for the sides of this tower. And then of course we can start to fill in the bottom parts of this tower too. We just want to have 4 walls, but we are going to skin them differently. That's why we didn't just use another large wall in there. But first, we just want to fill it in, because this is also going to start to secure this tower from the outside. So especially for survival, this is going to make it a lot easier to start using the tower as your survival base. We want to skin the bottoms of all of these sides with this nice metal texture. Then we're actually going to add 2 windows above each of that. So on all sides, we're going to add in a few windows so that we can start to enjoy the views of our surroundings. And above that, we're going to fill in the wall with this white metal again, so that it will blend in with the other sides. Then we actually want to take out a painting canvas, and we want to place that roughly here in the middle of this large wall. We're going to do that on all different sides. And this is so we can add some of those nice pipes as details around the sides of our base. So yeah, we just want to add these in all the way along the different sides. Once we've done that, we can actually skin the large wall, because we kind of just needed to not skin it so we could easily find the middle of the wall. But now that we've done that, we can skin that for sure. And we can skin the painting canvas with this little detail skin, which by default looks like this little shield with the like the pointy bit in the middle. But if we change the variants on that, there's actually quite a few nice details that you can add this way, including these pipes, which is definitely the look we want to go for, to add a little bit of extra depth in there. There's a ton of these details that you can add along the sides of your tower. I'm not going to show you exactly like all the little things, because that's up to you. But yeah, we at least want to have these pipes in there. I think they're quite essential to the general look of the build, but you can go a little bit further, and at the end I will show you which little details I added. Now you can also scale these up, so if you wanted to, you can actually go ahead and make this a little bit bigger so that this will fill more of the wall. I would recommend doing that. For time's sakes, I'm not going to do that for every one of them, but yes, just to show you, you can in fact do this. Then for the remaining parts of this tower, of the remaining sides, we want to raise this up just like this. So a little bit higher than the rest of the walls. Obviously, we can't do that yet above the gate. We'll do it over here on this side too, bringing this all the way up, one higher than the other walls. And again, we can continue to do this for all of the different sides. We can't do it above the entrance yet because we don't have those snap points, but we can do it for this side again. So then what we want to do is take out the metal skin. We want to skin the bottom 4 of this wall. So we'll do that for all of the sides that we've just added the walls in for. So just like this. Then we can take out our windows and we can add 4 windows just above that again to bring in a little bit of light to the base. So we want to do that for all the different sides. And then above that, once again, we can change these skins to the metal texture. And then we get some nice looking walls, breaking up this tower in these different metal segments. So from the inside of the, well, the future breeding pen, if we get inside, we'll have this part here off to the side. We actually want to fill this in almost all the way and add a little doorway at the bottom there. Just want to skin that all to the metal textures, because this is actually where our staircase will start to the next layer. Which means we can take out our triangles for this part, go across like this, and then bring out our stairs again, bringing this up to the next layer. And then over here, we can once again add a layer of triangles. Then actually, to make this look a little bit nicer, we want to add in our slope walls, and we can add these in for all the different sides, just to give them a little bit more shape, of course, except that one we already gave a different purpose. And then we can skin those to make them blend in nicely. We can also bring out our ceilings, and we can actually add them along the sides here, because this is actually going to be the next layer of the build. So yeah, we can take out our triangles where needed. First, we'll just kind of go around the outside here, filling in all of these different sides. There we go. We can fill in that side too. Of course, here more triangles, just like that. We'll leave the gap open above the stairs, of course. But now we should have the full circle, at least on the outside. And we can, of course, start to go in layer by layer by adding in these ceilings. Again, alternating patterns. So just as we did for the foundations, but this time it's going to be for these ceilings here to create a next floor. And basically this tower, at least in my opinion, you should utilize as your like main base, so you can have a lot of crafting and storage on all the different layers. And especially by the end of it, you should have quite a decent amount of space spread out over the different layers of this tower. And that's also why it's quite useful to build this first, because again, then you can start using it whilst you're working on finishing the main breeding pen next to it. There we go. So we filled that all in. We of course still have the stairs here. We want to add some railings along the side, and of course all the way along the side of the actual staircase going up. We can of course also take our skins and start skinning the staircase itself. I'm using the white metal for this. I think that's quite a nice match. And of course you can skin the entire floor. I'm not going to do that just to save some time. And the railings over there, we can skin those too. But one thing that it has also allowed us, this floor, is to make sure that we can also start filling in the wall above the gateway. So we want to fill this one up just as we did for the other sides. And we actually want to do the exact same thing here above the entrance into the breeding pen itself. The same way we'll skin it. We'll have 4 of these at the bottom as well as 4 of those at the top. We can do the same thing here on the opposite side, of course, skinning those to the nice metal textures and then having the windows right there in the middle. And we can do the exact same thing on the other side. So now everything should be exactly the same on all of the different sides again, and we can continue building our tower. We actually want to take out our walls again, and we also want to fill in this layer of the wall for the white part that we did. So we want to have 3 walls on top of all of these different sides. We can also skin these to be this nice metal texture to kind of start blending all these different sides together. And then we can actually change the variance on the corner ones just so that we have a little bit of variation going on there. It just looks a little bit nicer in my opinion. And then we actually want to take out our metal roofs, and we want to start adding them on the sides that are too wide, bringing this in by a little bit all the way around the tower. So we'll just continue this all the way. Take out our triangle roofs and fill in the gaps in between. Again, just to make sure that we can bring in this tower by 1 layer to help give it a little bit more shape. So we'll go all the way around with our triangles until we've completed the circle. And once we've done that, we can actually take out our metal skins and go around them and changing them to this nice coppery metal look for all of these different structures. And there we go. Okay, then before we continue anywhere else on the outside, we're going to build some more staircases here on the inside. So once again, we want to get over here and add 2 staircases right above where the other staircase comes up. So we keep it nice and compact like that. We can have some of our triangles going in between, and then of course bringing out our staircase for another layer here. So it's going up by 2 times before we get to more triangles going across like this. We want to have our triangles over here as well as some triangles all the way over at that side. And once we've done that, we can of course fill in our full ceilings in between to kind of fill up those gaps. And then actually for the middle triangles, we want to connect to more of these full ceilings. We can then also bring out more of our triangles to the sides of that, as well as bringing this out once more. So it's kind of getting a nice little shape to it all. Then we want to bring out our railings, and we can actually bring this up along the side of this staircase so that you don't fall down it. And we want to bring it all the way up to a point there. So it's kind of like a little walkway almost. And we want to, of course, skin that again in these white metal all the way across the side here, changing, of course, the railing at the same time, making sure that we have a nice walkway to reach the next layers of the build. So for now, we're just gonna skin all of this, change those railings. There we go. Blending that all together. So now the next step is to actually bring out our staircase, raise it up once more. We can take out our triangles again and build a nice little circle. So this is actually exactly perfectly in the middle of our building. We want to skin them to the windows because, well, it just looks quite cool. We can skin that, of course, and add some more railings around the sides of this. And then once again, we can skin the final railings here to get that same look all the way across. We can bring out our staircase once more, add one more layer up to the top here, and this now should be the same height as that we built the outside of the tower. So especially in survival, this is hopefully going to help you out a little bit, trying to reach all the different floors. Then we're going to bring out our full ceilings, and against all of the triangle roof pieces, we can add 2 of our ceilings to get started with this circle. Then we can bring out our triangles, and we can of course add those in between the sides here to kind of start the circular shape. And this outside layer, which is actually also going to be on the outside, we want to skin with this metal. So we want to go all the way around and skin this all the way through like this. All right, then it's time to raise up some walls. So here on the outside, we can start raising up these singular walls on the end of these triangles. There we go. To get some shape into the next layer of the build, we can change these to those white metal skins all the way around. And we actually want to change the variance for these two to create those nice lines to still get a little bit of that coppery feel into it, and also just adding these lovely looking lines. Then we can also add in walls for the other sections, so the 2x2s, and that's gonna shape up the next layer of the build here. And we want to do that of course all the way around the tower. There we go. And once we've done that, we want to change those to our windows skins so that we can once again enjoy the views of our surroundings, get a little bit of the natural light in here, and get our next layer of the building in place. We also want to take out our triangles again. We can add them right here. So in front of every window basically is where we'll have a layer of triangles coming in to fill in this floor. And then of course in between is where we'll have our full ceilings to start to shape up this build. We can also fill in the rest of this layer, so it's not a very big layer, but of course we want to make sure to fill it all in. And we can of course also fill in the middle here. You might want to leave this one open if you want a little bit more space, or you can fill it in, but then the staircase is a bit more crowded, so it's up to what you prefer. And of course the railings we can skin with the nice metal skins, but we can also skin the whole floor in the white metal skin if you want to get that over with right away. Then we actually want to add a few more skins. We can actually add some more walls here along the outside of our building, and these metal walls that we're placing right now here on the outside, you want to skin those with the scaffolding skin that these Galaxy high-tech skins offer. It's a very nice texture, and it just offers a little bit of a nice supportive looking structure. We want to add these shallow slope walls at the very end of all of these, and also these ones we can also skin with those scaffolding skin pieces. There we go. We're kind of making the supports for the next layer of the tower build. Okay, then the next layer we want to start building a little roof again, so we'll bring this in by one on each side with these full roofs. Then we can take out our triangle roofs and start filling in the gaps in between these to get a little bit more shape up here. There we go. All the way across. And then of course these roofs we can skin with these nice metal structures again. I actually painted this part of the roof specifically in a blue tint, if you want to do a similar effect, but of course it's totally up to what you prefer. We can also add a layer of ceilings around the outside here, so we'll start with adding these full ceilings above the windows that we have already made before. Just like that. And then in between, of course, we can add in our triangles, but also here on the outside. So we want to stick out this layer a little bit further. That's also why we had those supports on the outside. So we're going to just stick this out a little bit more to get a nice shaped roof for this. So even though that these parts are flat, they kind of still part of the roof of this place. So we definitely do not need one there. And we can go all the way around. And once we've done that, of course, we can fill in the full ceilings in between to finish this little section of our tower and of our roof. And of course, we can change these skins all to the same texture and paint it if you also painted the rest of this little roof that we're working on. So for now, we can just go around and change all of these skins to the right ones. There we go. Just want to make sure that we get these skins into the right looking phase. There we go. So we have the next layer of our roof kind of ready. And then we want to raise up the walls here. So everywhere where there's a full roof, well, that's the only place where it will snap to, we can add in our extra walls here. And all of these we can also change to these nice textures. And in fact, I would also change them to look like this. And if you want to add an extra detail, you can add another canvas here and make them look like the nice fans that they also have as an option. At the same time, if you want to add some extra details along the edge of this flat part, you can add some pillars and skin them with the antenna skins that this Galaxy skin offers to get some extra nice details in there. We want to look at this layer and we want to actually bring this out by a ceiling again on the outside. Just like this. Then we can, of course, take out our triangles to connect up these different parts again. There we go. So we'll just bring this all the way around like this. We can actually skin these in this nice white metal again to get a different look going around this layer of the build. Then we can bring out our shallow slope walls. Once again, we can actually skin these to look like the scaffolding pieces, just to get some nice looking supports for this layer of our build. There we go. And now that we've done that, of course, it also means that we can fill in these walls in between those sections. So we just want to make sure that we go around and add all of those different layers in, and we can skin them with the white metal skin all the way around. But we can actually also change the variance for this to these lines that go across from one side to the other, just to chain it all together a little bit more like that. Then we can bring out our ceilings again. We can start to fill in the rest of this layer as well, just with our ceiling pieces. And actually what I did to get up to this layer is have a teleporter here on the top level, and also have a small teleporter right there to save myself the space of having to add a ladder everywhere. And of course, you can skin this layer as well. This is going to be the very top floor of this little tower that we're working on. Okay, then it's time to bring out our walls again. We can actually raise them up to be too high all the way across this entire layer of the tower. This is kind of the control room of the tower. Of course, you could turn it into a bedroom or something like it, but we just want to raise it up to be too high all the way around. We then want to change it to window skins all the way across the bottom layer of our build, and we can then also change the top layer to these white metal skins all the way around. Then we can also change some of these variants. So above where the white metal was, we actually want to change to this variant, just to give it a little bit more of a supportive look and break up the pattern at the same time. And then once again, we want to change some of these variants. So this one above this part of the window, we want to have going to the other side. And then we want to have that one to kind of connect it into. So we're going to go all the way around the build to add in these patterns in the right way and make these walls look a little bit more interesting. All right, and then here on the outside, we can actually start to bring out these layers. So it's exactly the same as the layer below. We just want to add in these triangles around the outside. And then in between, of course, we can add in our ceilings just like this. Then we can take out our roof pieces and add a layer going around. We definitely do not want it there in the middle. We want it right over here. There we go. And just all the way around this build. We can then, of course, also bring out our triangle pieces to fill in these gaps. And once again, if you want to, you can, of course, change the skins and paint them in the little blue tint. That's at least what I did for my design. But, of course, you're free to do whatever you prefer. And we just want to go around and change the skins everywhere. Then we want to have another layer of walls. So we just want to go around the top of this part, adding these walls and change them to the window skins. There we go. We can also add in some support. So once again, we can change those to the scaffolding skin. But for now, we just want to go around and add in the supports all the way along the bottom here of this roof, just to add in a few extra details. And then finally, all the way at the top, of course, we want to have our triangles roofs go all the way around. And then we can bring out our ceilings here along the outside to kind of extend this with. And finally, filling in the gaps with our triangle pieces all the way around it. And once again, we can add in some shallow slope walls here, and you can change those to the scaffolding skins again to create some nice supports for this roof. And the roof itself, of course, we can change to these lovely metal skins. You can paint it if you want, and you can add some pillars and skin them with the antenna pieces if you want to add some additional details to the very top. And as I said, there's a few additional details that you could add along the sides of the building if you want to, well, go a little bit more detailed. Just to show you an example of what that could be like, this is my finished tower. So you can see I added a few extra canvas pieces and used the variants available to add a few of these things. Some of them are scaled up, of course. You can see the scaffolding pieces around. You can see some of these antennas, which is just a pillar with the antenna skin that this skin pack offers. We have some antennas at the top, and we have these fans along the sides too. And you can see how much those little details, which, I mean, it's not a lot of work to add those in, they do make for quite some nice details. So definitely I can recommend playing around a little bit with those, but it's best to just do what you feel is right. So now that we've finished the main survival based tower, it's time to focus on the actual breeding pen. We're going to take out our walls. We're going to raise these up by 3 high for this little side addition. And of course, we'll have a few more of those. Example right here. We have another one that we can do the exact same thing for, all the way around. And then for these smaller ones, we actually just want to raise it up by 1 on all of the different sides. And then of course, we're going to repeat this for all of these supportive bits along the sides of the building, just to give a little bit more shape to the whole structure that we'll work on. And of course, make sure that we'll have plenty of space for all of our breeding projects inside. There we go. Just a few more to go here. adding in these little supports, and then finally here raising this up by 3, this 2, all the way across like that. And then we've made the round, and then we want to have our slope walls on top of these to basically make sure that the supports connect back into the main building. And we can do the same thing here on the smaller ones that we have. So once again, we're just gonna go around the entire building and make sure that we add all of these into the right places. There we go. Just a few left to do. And there we are. Of course, the final step is to add in the roofs at the top so that the supports are complete. So once again, we're going to go round and round and make sure that we add these in for all sides of the building. And that will, well, it will start to help up shape the entire build that we're working on. So just a few more of these roof pieces, and then we have done them all. Now, before we skin them all, what you might want to do as some extra details on these 3 white ones is have a painting canvas in the middle again. We can, of course, add these skins to them, and then we can change the variance until once again we have these pipes coming out of it, which just looks very nice, adds a bit of extra depth. And yeah, I would personally do that all along the side wherever we have these 3 high supports. And of course, we also want to make sure afterwards that we skin all of this to be these nice metal textures, which of course we're going to do for all of the different sides. So yeah, once we've built this, we want to make sure that we skin these all so they look nice and shiny. So we're just going to go around the building, but I would also definitely add in all of those canvases so you can have the pipes supporting it all. And then we just want to make sure that we skin these right away just to save ourselves some work, make it a little bit easier, less confusing on what they're supposed to look like by the end. So we're just gonna do that for all of these sides. There we are. Just a final few left. And then we'll have our nice metal supports standing ready for the rest of the building. There we go. Okay, then it's time to work on one of these entrances. What we want to do first is have a large wall right over there on both sides of the entrance. Then we want to take out our quarter walls and add this little ledge around the bottom here on the outside. So these kind of supports are gonna look quite nice like this. Then we can change the large walls into the white metal. We can actually change them into these lines, and these small quarter balls we want to change to the nice coppery metal so that they stand apart a little bit. Now we are going to create like a custom looking entrance. So what we want to do first is raise these up by 2 high so that we have plenty of height here to make sure that creatures can fit underneath. Then we want to take out some of our roof pieces and add them here along the edge, change them into ramps to finish this shape. So basically this is going to create like a light little curve, and it should be high enough for even your big creatures to fit underneath. Now obviously in my original design the entrance is left open because, well, I think that looks a little bit nicer, but I do understand that might not always be the safest option. If you really want to be able to close these sides off, I suggest using a cellar door. In this case I'm going to use the tech one because it fits a little bit better with the space vibes, but you can definitely use a metal one or any other material to fit it in. What you'll need to do if you want to make this fit is have these quarter walls along the sides, and then you can just fill in the top layer with normal walls. That's all you'll need to do. And then from here you'll have this nice entrance with the curve in front of it. It definitely still works, and this is the way you'd want to build it if you want to be able to close it off. Again, I don't necessarily want that. I think it looks better having it open, but just in case you want to be able to close it off because, I don't know, you don't trust your friends or something, or you're playing on a public server, you might want to do that instead. For me, however, I'm going to continue without closing it all the way off. I am going to add another layer on top of here, which I'm going to skin like this, and I'm going to change the corners to that variant. I am also going to add some more walls here along the outside, just to shape up the rest of this entrance that we're building. This, of course, you would also do if you did close off the inside. But you can see we want to kind of make sure that we keep this shape intact. So what we want to do is we want to bring out our slope walls like this. Then we'll go into our shallow slope walls for the top bit and go across just like that, so that we have that shape that we really like. And we want to keep that also for this part. We can have our ramps at the very top. We can have the same thing here on the opposite side, of course, and then changing back to the roofs, we can have those as the final pieces here on the outside. Then we want to change a lot of this to that beautiful white metal, just so that it all blends nicely together. And we'll get a pretty cool looking entrance, in my opinion. So there we go. And we can, of course, also change all of these parts here on the inside. I think this looks like a pretty nice entrance. Obviously, there's still some gaps. So this is where it differs. If you blocked off the entrance, you're done, because you've filled everything in. But if you haven't done that yet, of course, we want to fill in these remaining sides. So what we want to do here is we want to have our slope walls first, and then we want to have these slope walls in here as well, some quarter walls to fill in the gaps, and we can change all of this to that beautiful white metal. And that is what the entrance will look like if you do not fill in the gate with a cellar door. But whether you do it with or without it, it will still look like a beautiful entrance with this nice curved gate that we've built. And now that we've done that, of course, it means that we want to do the same thing here on the opposite side of our building, because, well, we'll have two of these entrances. So we want to make sure that what we just did on the other side, we also have over here, so that you have two options to go in and out of the building. So we're just gonna quickly replicate the same thing we built over at the other side. Shouldn't be too difficult, and again, it's totally up to you whether or not you want to add in the cellar door as a gate, or whether you prefer to keep it open as I do. Both are definitely an option, and both will still look very nice. So no matter what your needs are, there's a way to make this work. And there we go. So that's the basic shape filled up. We can then have our roofs going up on the inside. We can also add them on the outside, so that we don't have to switch variants as often. Then we can have our ramps meet in the middle here. We can also have our other layer of ramps meet each other in the middle once again. There we go. And then we can have our slope walls over here. I can also already add in the slope wall on the inside of the building. And then, of course, the shallow ones at the top. And more shallow ones here across the top on the outside. And then finally, some quarter walls to fill in the remaining gaps. And then we can skin most of this to this beautiful white metal to make sure that it all blends in nicely together. Of course, except the bottom quarter walls there. Those we want to change to the nice copper textures instead. But there we go. With little effort, we should be able to get the same entrance on this side as we already built on the opposite side. And yeah, it's a nice way in and out of our breeding base. Okay, and then what we want to do is we want to start right here where we have the tower. We want to start with placing our large walls basically for each section of this build. So quite easily now we're gonna fill in the gaps here where these small additions are. We can just still keep a large wall going across. Only where we have the bigger option we are going to skip ahead. But yeah, for these sides we're just gonna add in the large walls everywhere, and this will mean that quite quickly we're gonna fill in the sides of our building, and well, should make it relatively safe with ease. So there we go, just going around until we meet back up with those gates. So this is what it should look like once we've done this first layer. And then starting from the gate, we're also going to change this to that beautiful white metal all the way around the build. So we're just going to go and skin all of these to this beautiful white metal, which will blend nicely together. So just circle around until we're back at the gate. And then for all of these corners, we're going to switch it to the variant with the nice big line coming down to bring a little bit of that copper color back in to these textures. And that's going to create some nice, almost pillar-like structures this way. So we want to do that all the way around until we have a base that looks like this. And then once again, starting over here, we want to add one more layer of walls all along the top. Of course, we already have those above the entrances, but we want to have them all the way around our building just to get a little bit more height so that even your bigger creatures should be able to fit inside quite easily without any issues. So we want to go all the way around the building and make sure that we raise it up by one extra layer, and we'll do that all the way back up to where we started. And then we can actually change that layer, of course, to these beautiful copper textures. You want to add those in all the way around the build, and this is a way to add a bit of color in and basically tie it all together once more. I really like these textures. They do remind me a lot of Star Wars. I don't know why, but that's why I wanted to build this spaceport base. Once we've done that, we want to change some of the variants. First of all, we want to change the corners, and on the sides where we have the middle, we want to also change the middle variant. That's also the side where we have these cut out, so that makes it a little bit easier to know when and where to change the variants. There we go. So we'll go all the way around our base, adding in a few of these variations just to make it look a little bit more interesting. There we go. And then it's time to add in a layer of roof. So we want to start here where we have the tower with a layer of normal roofs. And then of course, every other side of the building will have these normal roofs. We're just going to go for one layer all around. Just to, again, give a bit more shape to this build. It is a very big circle, so we want to go in by a little bit already because, well, otherwise it's going to be a crazy big building, but it should hold quite a few tames, and for breeders, of course, that's going to be really exciting news. So once we've done the normal roofs, of course, the gaps in between we'll want to fill in with our triangle pieces, just so that we can go all the way around the building. There we go. Just like that. And of course, that means we have a few more of these sections to do where we can fill in all of our triangle pieces. So not like that. Not misplacing them would be nice. But yeah, we're gonna just add a few of those in all the way round. And also here on the side, on the walls, there's definitely a lot of options to play around with all of the amazing detail features that this cosmetic offers, which I'll show you, of course, in a little bit. And we've already done a few, of course, with the pipes that we added. But for now, let's first focus on finishing the whole shape. Once we've got this, we want to change this all to these nice copper looking roofs. So we'll go around the building one more time to make sure that we change all of these skins so that it all blends together in a nice, satisfying way. So we just want to change all of these to the nice copper looking roofs. There we go. Which will yeah, just help tie the whole thing together, in my opinion. I really like these textures, as I said, especially for these space themed builds, these the Star Wars themes builds almost. I think they're a great match. Okay, and then we want to take out our walls. We can only snap them to the full roofs because, well, ARK won't let you snap them to the triangles. So we're just going to go around and add the walls on top of those full roofs first. And we'll do that on every side possible, just to raise up the building a bit more. And mostly to create some nice patterns on the outside. And then, of course, against these full walls, we can add in a layer of ceilings all the way along the side. I don't think they're clipping. I think it's just the textures of the skins. But in case it doesn't allow you to place them, what you could do instead is just have some quarter ceilings where the problems arise. But I'm pretty sure they technically shouldn't clip because, well, we've built these circles before and they weren't touching. So they should not be touching now. But yeah, we just want to go around and along the outside of those walls. Add in these full ceilings, which will create a little bit of extra depth around the outside, of course, which is exactly what we're looking for to make the outside look a little bit nicer. And then in between, of course, we want to take out our triangle ceilings and connect these all up. So we're just going to go along the outside and connect all these different parts up with each other. And round and round and round we go. There's a lot of going around for this build, obviously, since we're building a circular building. But this will also give us the snap points that we need to fill in the rest of the walls that we started placing down below. So for now, this is exactly what we want to add. If I don't misplace all of the ceilings. There we go. So now that we've done that, we can take out our walls again. And we should be able to snap a layer of walls underneath those triangle pieces. So that we can finish this wall that goes all around the building. There we go. And we'll continue this on all sides, of course, just to make sure that we can add all the details in on every single side. Then here on the underside, next to where we have the full ceilings at the end, we want to also have some sloped walls, just as some additional supports and additional details. So before we start skinning anything, we want to just make sure that we add in these little details around the edge of our building. There we go. All the way around all of the different sides. Then we'll take out our copper skins. We'll skin the slope wall as well as the corner pieces and the ceilings above it. So we'll do that until we meet the next corner, and then we can continue going all the way round like this. So, well, we got a bunch of skinning to do, but it will start adding in a nice pattern and some nice details for the build. So we're just gonna go all the way round and round to add in all of those skins. There we go. Just keep going. And there we are. And once we've done that, we want to skin the remaining wall pieces with the white metal. Then next up, we want to actually change the variance for all of these corners. So each side, we're just going to change just to get a bit more texture in there. And then we also want to create a nice little pattern in between here. So we want to have those there and then connecting them up. So we want to create that pattern all the way round, of course. So we're just gonna change those variants until we have this pattern all the way around the building, which just adds a few nice details in there to make it look a little bit more interesting. So again, we're just gonna keep going until we've gone all the way around and we've got all the details in place. There we go. Almost there now. Just like that. Now it's time to raise up some walls, and we can actually do that from that slope wall, or just to make it easier, on the sides of those normal ceilings. And we want to raise up those walls to be 3 high on all the sides. So we're just going to keep going around and add them in everywhere. Just like this. And this is just to give a bit more structure to the next phase of the building before we get to the roof. So again, on all of these corners, we want to raise up the walls to be 3 high. There we go. And once we've done that, we can actually change them to the copper skins. Just like this. Then the next phase is actually to fill in these walls. So again, still next to the full ceilings, we want to raise up the walls here on the inside to be 3 high. So we can do that for all of those sections with the full ceilings. And for the ones with the triangles, we just want to fill in the sides for now. So just the sides we can raise up by 3, and we'll leave the rest open just for now to get a bit more shape in the next layer of this building. So we'll keep going round and round to fill in these walls, getting closer to the final layer of the building, the roof itself, of course, but still a little bit work to do. And we can just do the same on all sides. Okay, so then in these open bits, what we want to do is add in or slope walls. If you don't want to have this open, because this is supposed to be for flyers flying into a like little layer that we'll have along this side, you can of course just close it all off. Just do the same thing we did on the other sides, make it a full wall, and your flyers will just have to enter to the gates as well. But yeah, I kind of like the open vibe, especially since it's supposed to mimic a spaceport. So I am just going to continue like this, adding in these slope walls around the side to give those side entrances a little bit more shape to them. So we just want to add those to all those openings, and then we can take out our coppery metal skin again. We can change all of the top layers of these walls to the copper. So we'll just go around the building and change all of these right away. There we go. All the way around. And then these bottom layers we want to change into windows. So again, we'll go all the way around and change them to the window skin so that we get a bit of light in there, and also just have a little bit of variation for these walls. There we go. Because we got some nice textures for these windows as options as well, of course. So we can do this all the way around the entire building, of course, from one side to the other. Okay, so we want to change the corner variants to these, then the ones below to those variants, and we can do those there and this one here, just to change it up a little bit, give it a bit more structure in general, and just, well, make it look a little bit nicer and more interesting, of course. So we're just gonna do this all the way around the building until we've got the right variants all around on every side. There we go. And finally, we have all of them looking the right way. So the next part is pretty easy. Basically, what we want is to have a little layer up here where you could park some flyers. So, of course, this is following the same alternating pattern as we have on the floors. Let's not misplace any of these, but we'll start with adding in these full ceilings behind the openings that we have on all of the different sides. So we can just add a layer of these ceilings in all around the building, and then in between. And then, of course, the next step is to add a layer of our triangles against this. And we can also, of course, connect up in between. Now, you could, of course, fill in this entire floor if you really want to, and you want to use as much space as possible. I'll kind of leave that up to you. What I did was more create walkways along the sides for flyers. But again, if you want a lot of space for your breeding projects, you're definitely, of course, free to fill in this entire layer. And rather than wasting space by adding in a staircase, what I would do is have some teleporters, connect them with the default teleport location so that you can quickly TP up and down from one floor to the other. So yeah, for now, we'll just keep going around and adding in these triangles, because I'm at least going to make the walkways. But again, if you want to, you can of course make this entire floor go all the way back into the middle. And then of course, once we've done this, we're going to expand it once more by adding in a layer of full ceilings. And we can bring, those all the way around the building too. And at least this is gonna give us, again, some nice space for flyers. It is a pretty big building, so you definitely have a lot of space to utilize in this. Which of course is exactly the aim for this being a breeding location. You want to have space for all of your different breeding projects. So yeah, this is what I would make the width, like 3 wide at least, and I would have them a little bit wider wherever we have the opening. But again, if you want to and you need the space for your breeding projects, you can of course fill in the entire thing until the middle, or maybe just leave a small gap in the middle if you still want to be able to fly up and down. That's totally up to you and what your plans are and how much space you want for your breeding projects. But for the tutorial at least, we'll just create these walkways. And all of these ceilings on the inside of the building, I would actually change to the nice white metal. So we have the outer edge being like that, but the inner edge I would do the white metal. What you could do is also have the outer edge here on the inside being the copper one if you want some nice patterns instead. But yeah, there we go. That is kind of the shape that I would go for. And of course, for security reasons, you might want to add in some railings along the inside, and then also skin those of course, just for some security so you don't keep falling off the platform whilst trying to line up whatever project you've got going on up here. So yeah, for now we'll just go along the edge here and add in our safety railing, even though it's a Star Wars build, and I guess that technically should mean there probably wouldn't be any safety railings, because for some reason they don't really like safety railings in Star Wars. But we do like some safety railings, and we don't want to be falling down all the time, so we're just gonna add them all the way around. And then of course you can also skin them. Okay, now that we have built this layer up above, we can actually build in a few supports. So what I want to do is have some large walls like this on the sides where we do not have the cutouts, just to create some extra supports. So over here again, we're gonna create some of these supports just to give a little bit more shape and character also here on the inside of our building, because we got a lot of nice details on the outside. But if this is a breeding spot, you're mostly going to be inside, so you also want to make sure that this looks nice. So we're going to continue this up a little bit until we almost reach the top on all of these different sides. And this is just basically going to give a bit more shape to the inside. They kind of look like they're supporting the rest of the structure, and they just break up the simple walls a little bit to make it all look a little bit nicer and a little bit more interesting. So then of course on top we want to have our slope walls to fill in those final bits, and we can do that for each and every one of these of course. So we just want to go ahead and add all of these in, and once we've done that, we can of course also change the skins here. Oh, actually we do not want to use the windows, that's the wrong one. We want to change them to be these copper textures of course, and just blend them in with the rest of the building. There we go. And we can do that for all of the sides, all of the things we just built, of course. Which also frames the entrance here into the tower quite nicely. There we go. And then just the final one over here. Just like this. And then we just have, yeah, some nice supports around the place. Speaking of supports, there's a few more things that we can do. We can change these to look like the scaffolding skins that we have. And just build in a few of these extra supports like this. So very simple way, but I think it looks nice just to add a few extra supports in. So at the bottom of these full ceilings, we'll snap those walls to the sides. And then with the scaffolding skin of this cosmetic, you can make some pretty nice looking supports. So once again, at the end, we'll add in our slope walls. And there we go. That way we can easily add some supports for the walkway above, just to add a bit more detail here on the inside, which of course is always a nice addition. All right, now it's actually time to start filling in the next layer, or actually the top of the building. So we can start over here with our full ceilings, which means we can go in by one for the next layer. And basically, once again, we just want to go all the way around the building, because we got quite a lot of ceilings to place again to fill in the roof. It's not going to be completely filled in, because we're still going to add a little bit of a detail at the very top, which you could turn into a greenhouse if you wanted to. That is an option, but it is also just a nice point of interest to make the design a little less flat on the top of the build. So for now, we can just go around adding in these full ceilings around the build. There we go. And now that we've done this, of course, that means that the next layer we can add in our triangles. And then over here, we actually want to have them on both sides. So we want to finish the outside layer. But of course, we also want to add in the first inside layer as well, because we're going to be filling in most of the ceilings for the roof now. So yeah, we're just gonna go along the side, make sure that we have the outside layer ready, and add the inside layer too. And then again, we're kind of just following the shape that we've already established at the very start to get the shape in until we get closer to the middle, because again, as I said, there are going to be some extra additional details in the middle. But for now, we can just fill in these triangle pieces along the side to shape up the building. There we go. So just slowly but surely following along the sides of the building, shaping it up until we have our breeding spaceport complete. Oh, let's not misplace any. And let's just follow the shape of the building, both on the outside, but also the inside here, of course. There we go. And I think then we've done it. Now we can just start alternating between our full ceilings and our triangles until we get to the inner circle, because again, as I said, we want to add some details. So we're gonna, for now, for the time being, follow this pattern. Oh, it seems like I've missed a part here. There we go. We can keep going with our full ceilings. And we basically need to keep going until we reach like a 2x2 shape. So we got quite a long way ahead for us for now. But of course, as usual with these circles, as we get more and more far towards the inside of the circle, it's going to really speed up. And the circle is going to be a lot smaller to go around. And by now we should be well accustomed to the circular shape, since we've done quite a bit with the building already. There we go. Just keep going around until we meet back up with the start of the build. Just like this. Follow along. And there we go. Again, almost round. It's always the triangles that are a little bit slower, but once we done that, of course, it means we get to do another layer with our full ceilings, and we can just follow the pattern. There we go. Just like, oh no, don't misplace them. Just like this, all along, and we're getting closer to the middle, but we need a 2x2 shape, and you can see currently it's still much more than that, because we're still at 4 ceilings for all of these. And then we can go back to our triangles. We're currently at 3 triangles, so we're getting closer to the right size, but we still have a little ways to go. So for now we just want to continue to fill in this shape, alternating between our full ceilings and our triangle ceilings to keep this round shape going. And there we go. And we should at least be getting way closer to finishing this for now. We can already see we're now at 3x3. So we just need a few more layers before we can add in that detail in the very top middle of this building. There we go, because now we'll already reach 2 for these triangle bits, so we only will need to fill in a few more of the full ceilings after this. There we go. Follow this shape and back into the rest of the building. There we go. And then now we see, now it's too wide here and it's too wide there. So this is the shape that we want for now, all the way around the building. So we'll just fill in these final few ceilings. We can then also take out our beams, and the first thing that we want to do is just add a little bit of a detail around the outer edge of this roof. So we'll just have some beams going all the way along the very edge of the building, which we can then also skin to the nice copper looking metal skins, just to give the roof a little border basically. So we just want to set it apart a little bit by doing this. There we go. So we can keep going all the way around the entirety of the building. There we are. Okay, so from the side here, you want to go in by 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then we just want to kind of follow the shape here like this and align it with our beams. Then we can do the same thing over here, which is going to be the exact same shape again. So again, we want to do that. We're going to follow along here, go along this shape once more. And basically these are going to be some rooftop windows to let in a little bit of the light into our base again. So again, we're going to follow this edge and just continue to kind of circle around these shapes, which should be exactly the same on every side. There we go. And of course the beams we can all change to the copper skin, and then these ceilings within the beams we can change to some lovely windows. The rest of the roof is all going to be those copper looking metal skins, and we can just fill in these remaining bits so that we get some nice skylights, bringing in some light into our base. There we go. So just like this, that's going to be all the windows into the base. And then we also want to take out our beams along the inside here, just to set this apart. Now, as I said, you could make this inside part into a greenhouse. If you want to make this into a greenhouse, you'll have to, of course, make the ceilings go all the way into the inside. The rest is still going to be the same, but you'll have to build the top part out of green glass. So the thing that we're going to build here in the middle, if you build that out of green glass, you can easily use it as a greenhouse should you want to. And the first layer is very simple. Of course, again, if you're wanting to build this as a greenhouse, you'll have to have ceilings in the middle, and you'll have to build this out of greenhouse and add a door somewhere so you can access it from the roof. But for us, it's just going to be a nice little dome on top. So we just want to add our walls. We can change these to window skins, so we can, of course, still see in and out. So we're just going to go all the way around the edges here. And then there we go. We can add in some of our roofs every other side, of course, just to start building up this dome a little bit. Then we can actually take out our triangle roofs and we can add them on top as well as in between these sections, just so that we can get this shape together a bit more. So we want to follow along with this shape all the way around the building. There we go. We can do this for all sides, obviously. And then finally we can add a layer of normal roofs in between these different sides, of course. And then we can take out all window skins, and we can actually skin all of these into windows too, because again, we want to make sure that they still will let through all of the light. And once more, if you want to make it into a greenhouse, build it all out of greenhouse glass, and of course add a ceiling in so you can utilize it in that way. And then finally, it of course means that we can fill in the top here. We can add in our triangles. Can add in our full ceilings in between, and then finally a layer of our triangles once more. We can change these all into windows as well, all the way up until the middle. And if you want to, you can play around with the window skins to create some nice little patterns for the middle part. Kind of like I've done over here. There's a bunch of different window variants, and just to give it a bit more structure, this is what I did, as well as adding in some random pillars on the top, changing them to the antenna skins to really create some nice details. And on the rest of the roof, you can also add some more pillars, change them to all of these different antenna skins, just to again create some detail. So I just basically placed down some random pillars, different heights, and use the different variants that are available with the antenna skin in this cosmetic to add a bunch of details. This is also a transmitter here, just to create interest on top of the roof. But that is pretty much all that you need to do. So yeah, the rest of the roof, everything we haven't skinned, that will be skinned to the copper pieces, of course. And then again, you can add all of those the satellites everywhere to create even more character for the build. And that's how you build this spaceport breeding base. So this is what it will look like once you're done. If you want a full detailed tour, I've made a separate video about that. But just for a quick overview, this is the spaceport breeding base. You can see all of the extra details that I added. I added a bunch of those satellites, which are all just pillars with the satellite skin from this Galaxy high-tech Cosmetic. You can see I added a bunch of canvases around here with fans onto this side, with these nice pipes all the way along the sides to add in details. Definitely recommend adding a few of these things as some extra character alongside of your builds. The same, of course, with the tower, as I already showed before. It's just a very nice way to really bring these builds to life. And, well, there is all of these amazing detailed pieces in there. You might as well utilize them. Now, if you're wondering where I built this on the map, I am on Ragnarok and I have built it right over here on the map. As for the tutorial itself, it's actually right next to it. So the tutorial I built right here, which is a pretty cool looking landscape right next to the desert, basically deserty mountains. And as you can see, we've got a pretty big breeding base here for flyers up on these walkways at the top. As I said, I like to keep these open, but you could close them off, of course, as well as you could fill in this entire floor if you want more space. And if you needed to, you could make the top into a little greenhouse. Then on the inside, we have these lovely gates going into the building. And you can see plenty of space in here. So whether you want to do a bunch of breeding on different creatures or fill it all up with one of the same, you can see you can fit in quite a few, even of the biggest tames, to do all of your breeding projects. You've got these side things to place down some structures you might need for your breeding projects. You can have some trophy shields and turn them into these beautiful displays with the same cosmetic to create even more interest. You can have your teleporter in here if you want to, etc, etc. Just making this a very practical breeding hall, of course. But then if you go into the side of the tower, you can have a fully fledged base in here with all of your different utilities that you might need all around this tower. You can see we've been able to fit in the tech replicator quite easily. And if we continue to go up, we'll see all of the different utilities. So we've got the forge here, as well as a bunch of other things and a bunch of storage. And if we follow this staircase further along, we of course have the teleporter to get into the bedroom, but we also have the kitchen layer here at the very top, just to show you can actually kind of fit everything you need in this one tower. We can teleport up to the top for our bedroom, looking quite cozy here at the very top. Also changed a few of these window variants, especially up here, for some nice looks. But yeah, definitely a very fun base to utilize with these cosmetics, and especially if you want to embrace a little bit of these Star Wars space vibes, but also just a very practical base, of course, with plenty of space for your different breeding projects. Anyway, that's going to be it for today's video. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully you enjoyed. If you enjoy seeing build videos like this and you want to continue to see more, make sure to like the video, subscribe to my channel if you haven't already, and feel free to leave your suggestions for future builds you'd really like to see me do down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video or the next stream. Goodbye.